Welcome to Tigs Bits. This week, JR the Handler, Chad Blasi, and myself talk about some of America's best concert venues. Of course, with JR being the tour manager for Justin Moore and for Jon Pardi, the dude has seen some places, so we dive deep into that. We also talk about Cocaine Bear. JR recently saw it, gives us a little review on it. Sounds like something that I have to see. By the way, it sounds funny and a little wild and crazy. Look, if you haven't checked out tigsbits.com, head over there. All of the social media channels are on there, YouTube videos. You can listen to all of the shows. It's basically the one-stop shop for the show. So head over there, go to those social media channels, like them, subscribe, share, comment. You guys have been killing it on social media with interacting with me and all. I'm having a blast doing it. So let's keep it up. Keep the momentum going. Share these shows with your friends. Let's keep this community growing and keep having fun. Let's dive into it.
Last night I was with a group of people. We went and watched the new movie Cocaine Bear.
I was gonna ask you because it's been on my mind. I want to go see it. I may go see it tonight.
Yeah, we had.
It's good.
It was good. It was ridiculous, but it was good. It was funny. It was ridiculous. It's a little much, a little gory. It's not for all ages. Don't take your small children.
Okay.
Did they play any Paul Cawthon music in there? They should have. A little cocaine dancing would have been nice in a nice bear
cocaine
attack.
Dancing for you.
Man,
They didn't have that. Yeah. No, nothing from the Big Velvet. The real Big Velvet. But music went along to it great. It was a cool cast. It was cool. It was well done, but it was just crazy. It was ridiculous. And it was funny parts, a little gory, and that's what my wife, a little into it. She looks, I thought this was a comedy. I'm like, I guess it will be, It was just kind of a thriller, I guess you'd say, more than a comedy. But it had funny parts. And
was it on the line of like a Sharknado type thing, or a little bit more involved?
A much better done version of that for sure. But and I'd heard that story, for years. There's a place up there, and it's actually I don't know if it's a gift shop or a truck stop or something where you can they have the Cocaine Bear statue out there, and you can get a T-shirt and stuff. It's been there for years. Our guitar players had that shirt for years. And
wow.
So I'd heard that story forever. So obviously they embellished it and made it for a movie, but it was pretty funny, and that's a true story. That really happened. And
yeah,
that kind of stuff
that's
happened a lot
heard.
more. You talking about technology and stuff. We'll circle it back into that. You talking about stuff like the Cocaine Bear. That stuff happened. Imagine how much stuff went on back in the 70s and 80s, and even before then, with people dropping stuff and jumping, and shit wasn't monitored. There wasn't no cameras. There wasn't no intelligence.
God.
I mean, there's no telling what kind of. I mean, it was the Wild Wild West.
Man.
And then think about.
Yeah,
we live here in America, the greatest country in the world. There's a few places like this. There's a lot of places that are still just like that or worse. Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy stuff.
1,000%.
Crazy stuff.
Yep.
Anybody wants to take some rabbit holes, go on YouTube and just watch some of these traveler shows where they go to the worst places. Watch them go to Haiti and Ghana and all these places, and man, it make you feel bad. And it's going to take a lot of people watching a lot of stuff like that for us to all get together, because you don't think about how stuff is until you see it, and most of us don't go to places.
Yeah,
that's wild. Sad.
Yeah, that
is wild.
It's absolutely true. We really truly have first world problems. We're upset if we can't get the technology to work, if you can't get the internet to work right to do a freaking podcast. That just ruins your day. Meanwhile, these people, they don't hope they have toilet paper or paper towels or plate. They just hope they have something to eat.
Yeah.
They hope they live through the day.
Right.
They survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I can't imagine day to day.
I can't imagine living life that way at all,
No.
Anyhow.
No.
Yeah.
Just to kill the vibe there for a second.
Speaking of technology, do you remember, like, this is before Google. I mean, growing up in Eclectic, it wasn't far from you. Down at Auburn University, they used to have that 4 union, and you could call them up, had an 800 number or a direct number, and you could ask them any question, anything you could imagine. And then within a few seconds, they would give you an answer. And I don't know how they did it. This was back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I used to call it all the time. Yeah. And I remember at Troy would be up at late at night. It'd be midnight. You could call them, and there was always someone there to answer. And somehow they had access to all this information. And I still like to know, were they like them? They were kind of like the first Google, but it was all done through voice.
Really?
I figured you might have called it because I'd call them for schoolwork.
God, no, I wish I'd have known. I would have wore them
math
out.
equations, anything. Yeah, dude, I used to wear them out all the time.
Yeah. Just call Watch This.
I know Bobby John, he remembers it well because I showed it to him and he thought it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. He used it all the time. He still brings it up. He's like, dude, what about that 4 union?
That's funny. No, but I wonder did they, I mean, how, there's no way, if it was that fast, there's no way they had a research team there that has that much knowledge or books. I mean, they would have had to have some kind of beta system of computer.
I have no idea. And sometimes it would take them a couple of minutes. You get into something kind of complex, but they would come back with an answer almost every single time.
Interesting.
Huh. That's crazy.
I have no idea. That'd be worth digging into.
I'm sure someone out there listening, hopefully, maybe they can shoot us a message to the podcast and key in on that, because I would bet there were early versions at universities and government, and certain people had access to. I don't know how maybe there was some way through a program where they got to use it for this purpose outside of internal stuff. But because like you said earlier, Tig, the chat stuff, we know who's had it for how long before us. Who knows?
That's right. Exactly. You know that Hollywood has been utilizing some of this stuff. One of the things that I use often, or that I use now fully, is Descript. So I'll edit videos and everything, and the audio, get it the way I want it in Premiere Pro, and then I move it over to Descript. It transcribes the video, so it has all the words, but you can finalize and cut out the uhs and the ums, and you can you can edit just by cutting out a word that cuts the video. What's neat about it is that you can also use a feature called overdub. You can train the voice of it to learn your voice. So like I've put 4 or 5 of my podcasts in there for it to learn, and it takes it about a day, and it comes back and now it has your voice. So let's say you say a word wrong, you can scratch that word out, put the word that you want to put, and then it fixes it and says it the way you want to. It doesn't have inflection perfect every time, but let's say I'm just talking like right now, and then I say, man, I need to stop. I need to run. I could change that to I need to walk. I need to sit, whatever.
Right.
And you would never freaking know.
Wow.
I've also taken an entire script written by Chat GPT and put it into Descript and used my overdubbed voice to read it. And it didn't sound exactly like I do with the cadence and everything, but just saying normal, talking normal, 100% was me. And you would never know the difference. It's insane. And that stuff's coming at a rapid pace.
Oh, the deep fake
where
stuff?
They can the deep fake stuff. And that's going to be an issue, I do believe, in the future for artists, recording artists and things like that. The one thing I think that helps out being a recording artist are concerts and live. You can't replicate live.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. There's nothing that replicates it.
Right.
You have to be there. Nothing can do it. There were some good things that came from during 2020 and stuff, with some virtual stuff when the world was locked down and you could still get it a little entertainment, but it ain't the same as going to a venue and getting your face melted.
Right. Yeah, it's just not. And that's where we hang our hats now is on the live touring, because even the revenue streams with streaming services and all that stuff, it's put record sales don't matter anymore. You don't sell enough records to really matter anymore. It's about your brand and
that's job security. If you like for you, JR, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I wanted to ask you was, how does that work with Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that? Because it used to be, when you started, it was album sales. I would believe that's what you push. You wanted to sell the most records. You wanted to get all of that, get airplay, all of that stuff. Now, from my understanding, you make your money on the tours and doing that type of stuff. How does that work? How does an artist, if you're an up and coming artist or you're someone starting right now, how do you get to a level at this day and age that somebody like Justin Moore has gotten to? Of course, he came up at a different time, different method. But what are your thoughts on that and being in the industry?
Well, it's definitely changed, like you said, because when I started, that was it. Even when I started on the regional level, it was selling CDs at live shows, and it was, scanning those, going into a database to make, it looked good to sell CDs, and, you got your, and then when we got up in the big leagues, you were still making money on selling records. You wanted to hit, I can remember, back in the day, it'd be 1 million albums, them rock bands and stuff used to sell in like the first week and things like that, and if for when I got in it, like when I got with Justin, you wanted to have the number one album when your album debuted. You wanted the number one album that week or that, whatever, that week for the cycle. And I've had a few, luckily, since I've been with him. And I remember one of the first ones we got, it was lower for then, because I remember it was like, it was like 100 and something thousand copies, which everybody was disappointed because that's a lot less than it was before. Well, then the next one we won again, and I think it was only like 50-something thousand physical copies. Wow. Yeah. It was during that trend. This was some years ago now, but we still had it was the number one album each time. The numbers went down, but it was still the crazy, number one album of the week. So it just showed how the whole thing was going down.
It had shifted.
It had shifted, and now and then they had to find not an algorithm, equation that works for using the spins and the streaming stuff, and that's all changed within the last just handful of years, because now some of the biggest artists out there aren't necessarily selling albums, don't even have albums on the charts, but it's streaming. It's just streaming, pure streaming. Zach Bryan, one of the biggest artists out there, is streaming. And it basically started off from the grassroots of, and I'm sure a lot of these people put work in and that stuff from the visual side, putting out YouTubes on video and TikTok, stuff like that. That's how people are actually breaking in the business, doing it that way now. Now on the fiscal side, I don't know, because I haven't worked with any of them, and I don't currently work with any young artists on the management side. But from what I've heard, that's financially feasible doing the streaming thing if your numbers are up enough and you can make some money that way. But they're also selling all the views and clicks and stuff from each of the channels. All that kind of stuff. But the number one all these people are trying to do is get these people to come see them live and buy a ticket and a T-shirt when they go to the show. So the end goal's still there for artists in the vein of music that we do now. I know some of the big pop artists and rock and rap artists, their way they go about it, I don't really know about. But mine in Americana, country, Southern rock, indie rock, I kind of know how that still works. And comedy and stuff. It's all similar, but I'm sure there's some people who do it a totally different way. Don't rely on that at all. But that goes back to brand sponsorships, things like that. When you have partners, if you're partnered with the biggest makeup company in the world, you ain't got to do that many concerts. If you're Beyonce or somebody, you know what I mean? Or if you're, but so there's levels and things and what you want to do. Then there's some people, like Justin, he doesn't want to do a whole lot of that. He just wants to go play shows. He wants to be a country music singer. He don't even have TikTok. He ain't never been on TikTok. He doesn't have Twitter on his phone. He don't have Instagram. He don't have none of that on his phone. He has some kind of Arkansas Razorback sports forum thing where he can just
he keeps up with his hogs.
That's it. And
he's in a message board.
Yes, he's on their recruiting thing. Watching. That's it. Or it's kid stuff, or it's working on new music stuff. But that's just
right.
So there's all different routes, but I know, like I said, coming from ours, it's changed to where the streams, they've reworked that thing to where I don't know how many times you have to download the song or play it to make it equal one album sale and things, but there's some formulas they use to figure that stuff out. Nobody's happy with any of it ever. It doesn't seem like. I don't have any, so I don't know exactly how it works, but from what I've heard, no one's ever thrilled about it. But again, Justin's not one of those guys where he gets worked up about it, so I hear him discussing it much because he's just like, That's not.
Yeah, he makes his music and
Get me
does
on the
his
road.
stuff. He's doing just.
He's
fine.
like, I can't control everything. He's like, I don't know. We don't
That's
chase trends and stuff. It's like it's not worth it. So
Let's get on stage and see how many people shows up.
Just try to do the best. Put out the best music you can, and put out to the hopefully radio will play it, and hopefully people show up and see it played live. Because like you said, live. I love records. I've got a stack of them. I'm a music guy. I love sitting at home listening to music. But even now, there is nothing that compares to going and hearing a live sound at the right place and the right time with the right ambiance and everything. There's nothing that replaces that. And even like just as much as I love his records, I'm spoiled because I've heard him play them all live before I hear most of the records, and I usually like the live version better. It's just because
correct, yeah.
It's just that's going to happen with most anybody. Well, I told you the story about the drive-by truckers. I didn't really wasn't a fan. Then I watched see him live one time, and then I'm changed forever.
It's right. It's amazing how much a live band can change your mind. Like if I was. 311 is a band for me that I didn't love them in college and all. They were fraternity band and I wasn't into their vibe at the time. I liked some of their songs and all, but one of my best friends, a couple of my best friends, huge 311 fans, like know the band and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've gone with them now to God knows how many 311 concerts, 311 days. I've traveled the country. Once I saw them live the first time, I said I was absolutely dead wrong about them. Hooked, and they're great. And there's several bands. I mean, a lot of bands that I love. That anytime I hear live music, it doesn't really matter where it's at if they're decent. I mean, if they could just carry a tune and they can play the chords.
Yep.
Good enough for me. I could sit there and listen to you all day.
In the right setting. Yeah, sitting in some theater somewhere listening to some good warm sound in a beautiful 100-year-old theater.
It's so good.
No, that was something that I did want to ask you. Or what are some of your favorite venues? Because God, you've had to have been to a million of them, and you may have to circle back and we talk about that at another time because it's probably too long to list. But I know you probably got some at the front of your mind that come to mind.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, even that right there, the old theaters. This past Wednesday, we did an acoustic 10-man jam in Detroit at the Fox Theater in downtown Detroit, right across the street. I mean, downtown, right across from the baseball field. It's been there for 95 or 6 years this year, I believe.
Yeah, there's been a lot of famous concerts have been recorded in there.
Oh yeah, exactly. And dude, it's just the how detailed, how just grand and beautiful it is. It's just amazing. How much effort was they would never do anything that way now. That they took so much time and effort, and everything's heavy, built with a purpose. And it's still there after all that time. And it and then the passageways and the stories, beautiful. Last week we did a couple just a few weeks ago on Justin's tour. That were the same. We did the Alabama Theater in Birmingham. It's over 100 years old. Just the same. Just beautiful. Everybody's Elvis, James Brown, Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole. Everybody's played there. The day after that, we go to Shreveport and play the Municipal Auditorium where the Louisiana Hayride was for all those years, and stuff. Right. And everybody's ever been anybody's played there, and it was really cool. A few weeks before that, we were up in Sioux City, Iowa, at the Orpheum. Same deal. It looks like the Orpheum in New Orleans, same company. A lot of them are named the same names because that was the company who built them during those time periods. Like the Fox in Detroit is somehow related to the Fox in Atlanta. Atlanta Fox, beautiful.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yep.
Ask. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and then Shreveport. I don't know if I mentioned this the other week, but the Shreveport they still have the shower where Elvis showered there, and they have it marked off. Well, the Fox in Atlanta has the same thing. There was a shower where Elvis showered. They have it marked off in Atlanta. Same thing.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It really is.
Still, all these years later, that shows you how big of an impact a person can make over some AI deal. That person, he's been dead for almost 50 years. I mean, that was 60 years ago probably that he played the Fox, and they still have it roped off.
It was in the 50s. It was in the 50s.
That's crazy.
70 years ago. And they called Elvis the King. Here, y'all know what they called him in Japan?
No.
The king. Hell, he's the damn king, son. No matter where he was the king,
That's
baby.
a good one.
He was the king.
But those are super neat, those old historic ones that have that significance, and I saw Robert Earl Keen last year in Wichita at a theater there. Beautiful, sat in the balcony by myself, had a couple seats open around me, just in heaven. Robert Earl Keen just singing on his farewell tour, singing my story and song. As I say, because he's one of the ones that his songs kind of went along with my career. He, certain songs, certain eras and stuff. But so those are cool. And then you go to cool amphitheaters places. But then there's the ones that most people know about. Like Red Rocks. Played Red Rocks probably 5 or 6 times.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. I've played one of the most beautiful in the whole country is the Gorge in George Washington. They have a watershed event out there, big festival. But it's an amphitheater. And the back of the stage and the production offices and dressing rooms are on the edge of the lip of the canyon to the Columbia River Basin. So you look off the back of the stage and just see this Columbia River. Just it looks like the Grand Canyon, so it's just huge, and all that. And then you look back up, and it's a huge hill, and it's I don't know, 10, 20,000 people or more, big ass festival and grounds there for that. That's a beautiful place to play and neat. I'm trying to think off top, just on the spot. Normally I'd have a million of these. The Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. I mean, they're just the historical significance. Then there's some that are just bucket lists into, personally. It's like, coming from where we're from, Chad, getting to go play Oak Mountain the first time or going and playing the Wharf the first time or, the BJCC. I was there when I was a kid for basketball tournaments. Now we're playing in here, at Madison Square Garden. We got to go play with Miranda at Madison Square Garden once or twice on her tours.
Oh, wow.
And, play in the Garden, man. I'm like, that's where Hogan slammed Andre, that's where, that's where Bruto Sammartino dropped the title, that's where Muhammad Ali boxed. So it's like that. We're in the Garden, baby. You don't matter.
Yeah, man.
It's like, what was that story? I'll tell that real quick. I think it was Owen Hart when he had the pile driver on Stone Cold Steve Austin. And it was there, and Austin went lights out for a minute, and he came to, and the ref was waking him up and said, and Austin goes, "Where am I at?" He goes, "You in the Garden, son." And that was it. "You're in the Garden, son." And he's like, "Oh shit." Then he came to and knew where he's at. I'm in the Garden. So yeah, Madison Square Garden. That's one just for, just because, you'd always heard that, and coming from Alabama, it might as well be playing on the moon.
Right.
And then, being a big Elvis fan, amongst others, we got to play the Waikiki Shell in Honolulu, Hawaii, which is where Elvis played when he was there.
Cool.
Back in the day. The Maui Performing Arts Center. You're on a Performing Arts Center outside in Maui in the palm trees, And I remember that it was right after Prince had passed away, and at the encore for those shows, Justin and the band played Purple Rain for like 10 minutes, just a real soulful, cool long version.
Man.
They did a good job on that. There's some video of that floating around. But my wife and I got engaged there, so that would have been 7 years ago now, 6, 7 years ago. But that was cool, out there. And then, and doing military bases, I think that's been fun. I've enjoyed doing those over the years, playing on, some kick-ass military base for big installation, bunch of people, just, cool stuff like that. I bet it's fun. Yeah.
Everybody, they're happy to see. They are beyond happy to see you.
Yeah,
right. You're number one. They're like, hell yeah, we're off today.
Yeah, we got the day off. We got an event. Yeah. We got a concert. Everybody's happy with it. Yeah.
Oh, that would be the absolute best thing you could walk into.
Yeah.
You're going to have a kick-ass time,
and it's our people. It's our people.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
And then.
Have you ever done an aircraft carrier?
Have not done an aircraft carrier. Have done like some air bases and stuff, like Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, where they that has the Thunderbirds, which is the Air Force's equivalent to our Blue Angels. Yeah. And we got to go see some high level stuff out there. Cameras, all that stuff. And you talking about, oh man, cool, man. And just some of their training stuff. And we got offered to do a few things over the years. Justin's less of a risk taker than I am, and I'm not very much of one myself. So we never went up with anybody or been to no G-force simulators or nothing. But we looked at them. It looked crazy. But that kind of stuff's always cool. And when you're doing impactful stuff like that for people who need that kind of stuff, and you're doing something for somebody, like we do charity events. I've always loved those. I mean, one of my favorites of all time was when we did Charlie Daniels' Christmas for Kids in Nashville one time at the Ryman, and I got to have a long talk with Charlie that night, and Charlie Chase from the Crook and Chase show, and a couple other artists, and raised a bunch of money for a good cause and things like that. And that's always neat when you know you're doing something that's helping people, like Justin does. He and his wife are big backers of his county's Boys and Girls Club, where he lives in Arkansas. And like over the last 8 years or so, they've raised a ton of money, done a lot of good stuff for that organization for a pretty poverty-stricken part of rural America, that needs any help it can get when there's not a lot going on. So they've helped and really grown that. I think that kind of stuff's really cool when you get to do that as far as the fulfillment side. I mean, a big fun house and show is fun too, but when you're doing stuff that's helping people when you can, I think that's awesome. Yeah. And then, that rewarding side. But the actual venues themselves, some of those real cool outdoor historical places. And, we played another one randomly. We've played in Iowa, the surf, what was it, the surf club? I got the shirt. Well, the last place that Buddy Holly and those guys played before they took off on the plane.
Okay, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I've seen pictures inside that building. It still looks pretty much the same, a low ceiling.
Yeah, it's just a little auditorium type place.
Yeah. How did it sound good in there? How's the sound?
I really can't remember. I was kind of mesmerized that day. We've only done it once, and it was just kind of like, oh, we're here. But it was small, it's a smaller place, but it was neat though. Just,
right.
They had a lot of memorabilia and stuff up. But yeah, and then you go play some of these places like we've done, like when you play, in a big, like a stadium type thing. We've got to jump on a few of those, or when you go play in Vegas at one of these big, stupid big arena concert things they have with rotating this and that. I mean, there's just some wild stuff, and that's even the evolution, because you think about, again, our pawpaws went to a barn dance. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing there was. Or these theaters, which there might have been 2 per state, 3 per state, unless you were in a real pop like New York or somewhere maybe.
Right.
But anywhere else you had 1 or 2 in the whole state. And that, unless you travel all somewhere to get there, you know what I mean? So it was like, and now we have, I've named off these places. Each one of them holds more than all of those places put together, And
yeah, and they're scattered all over the United States, everywhere you just named.
Because I was thinking about that. Think if you're in Iowa, you're out in the middle of Iowa, but there's this beautiful theater with all this ornate stuff, and it's just there's nothing that looks like it anywhere that you've ever seen, and you could go there and see a magician or Charlie Chaplin or Miles Davis or whoever, I don't know, and that's a long way. You would make the trip because there wasn't a amphitheater in your town.
Right. Exactly. It's amazing how far it's come, especially in Vegas. You're right. Like wherever it was, I saw 311. I think it's the MGM. It's where Bruno Mars was doing his deal too. Yeah, that place, it's just nuts. It's a Dolby Atmos surround sound. All these I mean, like, whoa! It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. Right. Just looking at a picture, I was like, this is a small venue. No, it's not. It's a lot bigger than you think. But the sound in there was. Perfect.
Well, those places are printing money. Sound. There is no budget. I mean, they're printing money. They don't keep all them lights on because everybody's in there winning. That whole time, and that's one, and it's fine, whatever. And I'll probably take some heat for it, but that's just one thing. Las Vegas, just as a whole, is one thing we just don't need. That's ridiculous. Well, that's just what a waste. Yeah, you know what I mean. Just be real. It's a debt. We're just funneling in there. It's no need in all that. That grown way out of control. That's just ridiculous.
It really has. It's gotten totally out of control.
I mean, it's just there's and a lot of people are still moving there too. It's a growing city. It's in the middle of the desert. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, it's just not setting yourself up for very good long-term sustainability, in my opinion.
No, there's no infrastructure there to sustain something like that.
There's not at all. They don't have enough
water. It was never meant to be.
No, but how does it keep on? And it just grows. But just dump it in there. We're going to try. But then you
keep on coming.
But then you see these, Dubai and these different places. It's like, good gracious.
It's crazy.
Well, Dubai
It's
is going to build
absolutely
they're wanting to build what, like a 65-mile long or something like that building that's like
concourse that's all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go from one end to the other in like 10 minutes or something through this speed rail, and that's where people work, and it could be solar power, all this stuff that sounds like a dream, but you know what?
That's where
it's going to happen.
That's where we're all going to live.
It's going to happen.
That's where we'll all live one day.
That.
We're going to have to live in like, we're going to have to
Yeah.
live in like, basically, if y'all ever seen the Earth domes, like the self-sustainable housing and stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, we're going to have to
yeah.
live in pods like that inside like little cities or something, because this some bitch is going to be a burning pile of rubble, and we're going to have to live in our greenhouses or something.
The Truman Show is going to come to real life. Except for everybody will still be filming shit like this, and that we will be living in the own reality of the Truman Show.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You heard it here first, folks, on Tigs Bits.
That's right. The apocalypse is amongst us.
Nostradamus was
coming to us
Nostradamus
soon,
was what one man, we are three. Watch out what we can do. We got all kinds of predictions.
We're stronger than AI.
Yep. We're like Voltron. We put our forces together, buddy. We can slay all them dragons with a super sword. Shing.
There it is.
You know, it's funny. I tried that later on that night.
I know you did.
He may be on to something. Absolutely,
if I
I did.
concentrate hard enough.
Let me push harder. I mean, I swear I felt like electric energy coming through my shoulders. It kind of hurt. You know, I was like, I don't think I'm quite ready for this.
Hey, what if that's the ancient technology? We all did this till we got enough electronics inside of our bodies to touch these rocks and make them stand up and move them. You get a bunch of people around it
right
touching
there for years. You've been right on the cusp of this discovery for years, and here we are.
I'm going to push it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you should. You have to, especially if it starts hurting your body. Then that's telling you that you've got to. There's something there,
and only
right.
for a few more years,
right.
Blasi, because you know, none of us spring chickens. Push it for a little while longer. We have to ease off. After a little while, we have to. That's enough. We'll let the younger man try that this time.
Let me hand that down.
That's funny.
Oh my God.